Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special non-canon file of the All You Can Hear podcast. I am your host, Tanner, and with me today, we have Ireland's greatest son. Please welcome to the program, Garrett Kidney. I don't know why I did the introduction like that.
It's because we're in the middle of the NBA Finals, so you want to give me like a big NBA Finals introduction, right?
You know what, Garrett? When I think of you, I think basketball. I don't know
That's
if
true.
you and I have ever spoken one sentence about basketball in our, I'm going to say 10 years of friendship. And I don't know if we have ever spoken about basketball once.
We might have talked
Yeah.
about the Mario basketball game at some point.
You know what? You know what? Yeah, we probably did. Yeah,
We
that's
probably
probably
brought
come
up
up
Mario
before.
Hoops or whatever it's called on the Nintendo DS.
Yeah, that has probably NBA Jam Volume 2, the GameCube version that has like Mario and Luigi and I think Peach in it. They should bring that to the GameCube NSO.
Damn right.
They should do that. They should do that. But as you know, anytime Garrett and I get together, what are we talking about? We're talking Nintendo. And today we're saying rest in peace to maybe the greatest console ever, the Nintendo Switch 1. Garrett, I just want to ask you because I think you got your Switch 1 on day 1, correct?
Midnight launch, no less. My only midnight launch for a console.
Really? I didn't do a midnight launch. I was very lucky and got a pre-order at Target, I think. So I had same day delivery. Last midnight launch I went to for a console was the PS4. I went to a midnight launch for that. But the Nintendo Switch, a console near and dear to our hearts, maybe the perfect machine, many would call it. I just want to know, Garrett, when the Switch 1 got announced, obviously you were excited about it, or else you wouldn't have been at a midnight launch for it. But could you have ever have like seen into the future of what the Switch 1 would become for Nintendo?
I'm not psychic. I don't want to pretend I'm psychic, but I want to say yes. I want
That's
to
a crazy
say
way to start that sentence, and then your answer.
yeah, but like I want to because like maybe I tweeted it's like, oh, this is still going to be a flop, but I feel like that first week of the Switch where you're like, oh, this thing is like a little miracle device, and also The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild is like one of the best games ever made. I feel like that 1-2 punch opening week, you're like, there's no way this thing is going to be a Wii U. Like, there's no
Yeah.
way. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Will it be potentially best-selling console of all time, north of 150 million? Maybe I wouldn't have predicted that, but I would have been like, this is at the very least an 80 million 3DS level success, and there's no way it's going to be anything else.
Yeah, I think it was pretty immediate. I was excited for it because the Wii U left me just wanting more. There was a ton of Wii U games I enjoyed. I still think 3D World is one of the maybe the best 3D Mario, maybe. Because it's incredible. But then, they just go and make it even better on the Switch. But I digress. I like the Wii U, but there was a lot to be desired. And then such a quick turnaround to be like not even 5 whole years from the Wii U to the Switch is just like, oh man, like Nintendo's getting desperate. Hope this one hits for them. But yeah, I think it was pretty immediate when, like, after that first weekend of the Switch 1 being out, they're like, yeah, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has a 103% attachment rate on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was then I'm like, oh, okay, this thing's probably going to have some legs. And then obviously, like you said, Breath of the Wild being the game that it was, probably the most influential game of the last 15 years. It feels that way to me. Like, I know a lot of people would probably answer that Dark Souls is arguably more influential, and there's even some Dark Souls in Breath of the Wild. But I think what Breath of the Wild has done for like open world games, or the possibilities that is open for open world games, because in my opinion, no game has come close.
That's what I was thinking, in that like I think Breath of the Wild is the new game at the top of the hill that everybody is striving to be.
Yeah.
and it ruined open world games. Like
Yeah.
the Ubisoft formula was already getting tired beforehand, but it killed it square dead in an instant. That open world formula was murdered by Breath of the Wild. And as you said, I don't know, the only game that really had that same feeling in the 7 years since, not counting Tears of the Kingdom,
I
is
was about to say
probably
Tears of the Kingdom.
is probably Elden Ring, right? That's
Yeah.
the only game that had that similar kind of sense that this is something new and generational. So I feel like you are both right that that is like the influence people are aspiring toward, but nobody has come near even hitting it in the 7
Yeah.
years since it's released.
Yeah. But no, it really is just like,
Or 8 years,
uh,
Jesus. Oh.
oh God, yeah. You were saying 7 years. I'm like, wow, I can't believe it's been 7 years. Wrong. It's been 8.
Ugh.
Actually, 8 and a quarter at the time of recording this because we're in June. Oh God. Good Lord. Where has the last 10 years gone?
That time that the 8 years has moved very fast because
it
like
it truly has. And I feel like part of that has to be attributed to like pandemic time. Like fast forwarding, so like just take off like a year and a half in the middle there. But it really is, I don't know. I really define like when I think of the last 8 years, like one of the big things to me is like, oh, the Switch came out. Because the Switch, like, I don't like the Switch was I had never seen this since I had been in like the gaming sphere, but like the Switch to me was the console that broke out from like the gamer market. I mean, I okay, let me backtrack. The Wii did, yes. I was way too young to care about that shit then. When the Wii came out, I was 10. So I did, I wasn't paying attention to like, oh my god, my normie friends have a Wii because everybody had a Wii. But like the
also
Switch,
like the Wii was a fad. Let's be real.
oh
And like
yeah, for sure. Like I think a lot of people bought the Wii because they were like, you can play tennis on this thing. I mean, my dad played the Wii. My dad, I've seen my dad play 2 video games in his whole life. He played Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2005 or 6, one of those mid 2000s games, and he played Wii Sports. That was
mm,
it. That was the only games because he could, and he broke a ceiling fan in our house playing tennis.
the
Uh,
classic Wii moment. But like
yeah,
the Wii and the DS both had their like casual fan breakouts.
yeah.
And that there was a bunch of people who played like Brain Training on DS and Wii Sports
Mhm.
on Wii, and those people all moved on to phone games. Anybody that's still playing games that started playing games with the Wii of that age is just playing Candy Crush. They're not buying a Switch. Whereas I think the thing you're identifying is that there are people who bought the Switch that aren't gamers but will
Mhm.
continue to be gamers. Those people will be keeping an eye out for the next Animal Crossing game.
Yeah, that's my wife. That's literally my wife. I got her the first year we were dating, she would constantly steal my Switch and play Tetris 99 on it, of all things. She had never touched a Tetris in her life. And she had very casually like played like Just Dance and stuff. Like I feel like everybody did when they were in middle school or whatever. Um and she played Tetris 99. So for her first birthday when we were together, I got her a Switch Lite because I was like, I have the main Switch, she can have the Switch Lite, it'd be good. And she has put probably 150 or 200 hours into Tetris 99 across the last, several years. And then she got heavy into Animal Crossing. We were talking about before the call, COVID was before Riley and I ever lived together. One of the main ways we would communicate is going to each other's islands in Animal Crossing.
Oh,
Yeah, very sweet. And that was like one of the main ways we connected, during that time. And then weirdly enough, she loved Super Mario Odyssey, which she should. It's literally probably the greatest game of all time. Um, she loved Breath of the Wild. She never beat Breath of the Wild, but I don't know anybody that has as many hours in Breath of the Wild as she does that hasn't beaten the game. She just doesn't care about the story. I doubt she could identify Ganondorf. Um,
he's like, it's the swirly mist around the castle, right?
yeah. She's like, don't talk to me. I'm cooking. She's like, I'm making, I'm creating. I'm like, okay, whatever. You do you. So yeah, I feel like uh the Switch kind of broke into that market for like people around like mine and her age, because she had a ton of friends that weren't gamers that got Switches and got into various, like Animal Crossing was a big one for them, but like a lot of them like stayed for Pokemon and bought Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, which I'm like, yikes, y'all should really go play one of the good ones. You know what? I'm gonna say right here, Sword and Shield, not bad, just frame rate issues. Scarlet and Violet may have been bad.
Bit of a train wreck, bit of a mess. Not anymore though. If you bought a Switch 2, runs like a dream.
Have you tried it on the Switch 2?
Yeah, it runs perfectly. It's very weird. It's like it almost exposes how boring the art style is because you're no longer distracted by how shitty it runs. So
Okay.
you're like,
so that was, I saw somebody post on Bluesky about that. They were like, I can't remember who it was, but they were like, wow, Scarlet and Violet runs really good now, but holy fuck, is this a boring palette for this game? And it was just a screenshot, and it was literally like they were just in this like field, but the field was like very clearly made out of like 3 blocks, and it was all brown and like diarrhea green. It was just atrociously ugly. I'm like, oh my god, maybe Pokemon never needed to evolve past Emerald.
well, look, the funny thing is, I think Legends Arceus looks pretty good. It's obviously limited by hardware, but it at least has some kind of sense of style to it, a sense of personality.
Yeah.
And then you go to Scarlet Violet, it's like, just, this looks like nothing. It looks like nothing. It looks like default template assets.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, that's true, because Legends Arceus did have like, there was definitely a style going for it, but I wonder if that's mainly because it wasn't like the main Pokemon team working on it. It was like,
but then you look at fucking ZA and it doesn't look like that anymore. It looks more like Scarlet Violet. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like, what did you do to my boy?
Ugh.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Like the Switch one, it's such a, probably single-handedly responsible for like reigniting my love for games. Like I had a PS4 at the time, and I still played my 360 at the time, but like I didn't care about new game releases. I didn't care about, like I wasn't getting online as much, whatever. And then the Switch came out, and I feel like it just completely changed all that. And like now I'm like, oh, I'm getting online and playing Mario Kart, or we're playing whatever else online with this. Splatoon was a big one I got into for a little while. I want to know, Garrett. This may be a hard question for you. You're on a desert island. You have your Switch 1. You don't have your Switch 2.
Okay.
You also have 3 games available to you on your Switch 1. What 3 games are you taking?
Oh, only 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good console system, Tanner. There's lots of very good games.
Some have said that.
All right. So it's one of them has to be like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. I'd probably take Tears because I feel like that just the open-ended nature of the building stuff has more long-term fun in it than Breath of the Wild does if I'm going to play those games until I die on that island, because I can't swim. I'm dying on that island. I need to be rescued. So I'd say Tears of the Kingdom. I would say, because it might be my favorite Switch game and one of my favorite games of all time, Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Oh, okay.
Which is an out there one, an outside one. And like I want to say like a Mario Odyssey, but honestly, I'm thinking like Hades. I'm thinking Hades is my third Switch 1 game that I would take to my desert island.
Okay, Garrett, I was thinking about my answers. My answer is literally Super Mario Odyssey, Hades, and Tetris 99 are my 3 choices. So I would absolutely take Hades. And that's another thing about the Switch 1 that I feel like kind of gets glossed over sometimes, is what it did for like indie games. Like, I don't want to say it made indie games more accessible. I mean, it kind of did.
But you hear it from developers all the time being like, oh, our game sold most on Switch. We sold shit all on PlayStation. We sold nothing on Xbox. We sold pretty well on Steam. And then we sold great on Switch.
Yeah, like, I mean, I feel like Hollow Knight is a big one. Like, yeah, a bunch of people played Hollow Knight before it came on Switch, but then it went on Switch and it did like absolutely insane numbers to the point where people are going crazy to play the sequel that may or may not come out this year. I'm still not sold on that, by the way, that Silk Song's coming out this year. I
They
know
have not yet committed.
I know they have said several times, including at the Xbox presentation, that it was coming out before holiday, which what the hell does that mean? Because whatever. I assume if it's gonna come out, it's gonna come out in like October. But
I did like the Team Cherry announcement being like, we're not tied to a hardware launch.
yeah. Yeah, it's so cool. It's awesome, actually.
But the funny thing is, like, Xbox were desperate to clout chase off Hollow Knight for that handheld device. And then in the Switch 2 Direct, they put it as 3 seconds in a sizzle reel.
Yeah, hey, that Xbox handheld ain't gonna have Donkey Kong Bonanza.
It won't. The game looks fucking phenomenal.
That game does look really good. That Direct, like, I was already excited about that game, but then that Direct, I was like, ooh, I like really need to go ahead and get my Switch too, huh? But like Hades is another one. I probably never would have played Hades if it wasn't for the Switch, and that game is phenomenal.
You look at the list of indies, like games like Dead Cells, games like Celeste, games
Snake
like
Pass.
Balatro. Snake Pass, shout out my boy Snake Pass. I did a YouTube review of Snake Pass.
I know.
didn't like it.
I remember.
SteamWorld Dig 2, which is a fucking phenomenal game. And there's a million other indies once you dive below. It really is. Because, like, the Wii U had, I don't know, Shovel Knight. You know, it had some. There was some, like, indie relation stuff going on with Wii U. It was really the beginning of Nintendo starting to rebuild that indie relationship.
Yeah.
And then Switch is just where it went crazy. Where it's just like, this is the indie machine. And if you have an indie that can run on it, you want to release it on Switch because it will sell better on Switch than it'll sell anywhere else.
Yep. It's so funny to me because, like, it's so funny, like, oh, the Switch is the indie machine, but then it's like, oh, well, Switch is obviously the Nintendo machine. It's the only system getting these first-party Nintendo games that are, you know, a lot of people consider the best in their series. I think no explanation needed for Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. I think it goes back and forth, which I feel like a vast majority of people enjoy one of those more than every other Zelda. Super Mario Odyssey is definitely the best Mario game ever. I'm not going to hear anything against it. Most people, or a lot of people in my circle, think that Pikmin 4 is the best Pikmin. You have oh my god, why am I blanking on every other Nintendo franchise?
But I would make a strong argument for Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's up there with Awakening.
Oh yeah, Fire Emblem 3. Oh my god, also a phenomenal game. Fucking Fire Emblem, Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of that game's phenomenal. Ton of people love that. I love that game.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Oh yeah, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Smash Brothers Ultimate. You just have like these definitive versions. Luigi's Mansion 3.
Phenomenal game.
You just have all of these like classic Nintendo tentpoles that have their best entry on the Switch 1. And then the Switch helped establish new tentpoles, such as, I mean, I know Splatoon was already getting a lot of clout on the Wii U, but the Switch to me is really where it started to explode with Splatoon 2. Animal Crossing is like a huge Nintendo tentpole now, which I could have never foreseen coming. Thanks to it selling 48 bajillion copies of New Horizons. So you have the Nintendo machine, you have the indie machine. Every RPG ever created is also available on the Switch 1. Like, there's so many RPGs that you could go on the Switch 1 and play right now if you wanted to. The Atelier series, the Trails series, fucking like every Final Fantasy almost is on the Switch 1. Like, so many role-playing
games. A lot of
games.
Dragon Quests.
Yeah, a ton of the Dragon Quest. No Kingdom Hearts. Well, I guess the cloud versions of Kingdom Hearts, but
They should really get those bad boys on Switch too. Come
They
on.
should really get them on Switch too, right?
They could have got listen, those HD versions of Kingdom Hearts, those were PS3 games. They could have gotten those things up and running on Switch too. They didn't need to do any cloud bullshit in the first place.
I completely agree. But it's just there's so much you can do with your Switch. Like I honestly feel like it's like the perfect console. Like I know I joked at the beginning where I was like, "Oh, maybe the best console ever." For my money and for as much enjoyment as I got out of it, the Switch is my GOAT. I don't I mean the 360 is close, the PS2 is close, but I think the Switch for A, longevity, B, just banger after banger after banger. Pretty much I would say every month of the Switch One's life cycle, there is at least one game that came out for it that was worthwhile.
And that's the thing. That's the thing that people are so wrong about Switch 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the small factors, not even small, I think big factors in the success of the Switch was that, like clockwork, Nintendo would release a new game for the Nintendo Switch every 4 to 6 weeks. Like clockwork. For 8 years they did that.
Yep.
Like every 4 to 6 weeks, there would be a remake. It might be something smaller. It might be one of their big heavy hitters. But every 4 to 6 weeks, there would be some kind of Nintendo game released on that. So people are like, oh, Donkey Kong Bonanza should have been a launch game. It's like, you idiot, they're doing the same thing. Every 4 to 6 weeks, there will be a new game on Switch 2, and that is good. I would rather have something to play every. I haven't turned my PS5 on. Actually, no, I played Lies of P's DLC, but before that, I hadn't turned it on in maybe the guts of a year. Because there is nothing to play on the thing, and most of the new games are bad. But like Switch, every 4 to 6 weeks, like a machine, they churn out something.
Yep. And then, like, in between that time, I mean, you mentioned Balatro. Balatro is the best game I played last year.
Mm-hmm.
Balatro, to me, is going to go down in 10 years. I think it's going to go down as, like, one of, like, the influential indies. Now, have I played anything that does the formula as good as Balatro yet? No. I played some games that I've gotten close, but nothing feels as good as those numbers on Balatro. It's so good. It's just so good. But you have like indie games like that, like in between the spaces, or especially now with Switch 2. But I mean, you got a decent bit on Switch 1, the third party support. So you have like just a random game coming out. That's like the random like Dragon's Dogma remaster that's on Switch 1, or the Dark Souls remaster that's on Switch 1, or Doom 2016, or any of those like weird games. I'm like, I'm surprised this is on the Switch 1. And like they run pretty well for the most part. It's just so it's so mind-blowing to me that a Nintendo console can have like that much non-Nintendo character to it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's like the three pillars of the success of the Switch, as you mentioned. It's Nintendo's first-party games, which are usually a very high quality. Occasionally you get like Mario Golf shitty schedule filler, and that's fine. But for the most part, Nintendo first party stuff is like your foundation. Then indies bring that floor up a lot more because you, as you mentioned, a bunch of games. And then there is the thing you saw toward the start of the Switch, the Pets initiative, the port everything to Switch initiative, which ultimately kind of happened. Like everything kind of was ported to Switch. If you want to play Metal Gear Solid, you can play it on Switch. If you want to play Final Fantasy, you can play it on Switch. If you want to play Sonic the Hedgehog, you can play it on Switch. Spyro, Crash, you can play it on Switch. If you want to play Grand Theft Auto, LA Noire, Red Dead Redemption, you can play it on Switch. It is this, like, versions of ports will always be slightly variable. The Switch 2 versions, by all accounts, are all better. But it is this video game history device. If you want to play any Mega Man game, there it is. Like a bunch of Nintendo's old games are all on there. If you want to experience the history of video games, if you're like, hey, I want to play BioShock or Borderlands today, hey, they're both on Switch. If you want to play The Witcher, that's also on Switch. If you want to play Wolfenstein, that's on Switch. Hey, Skyrim, that's on Switch too. It is this all-encompassing device of video game history from both the Nintendo's perspective, the broader industry's perspective, Microsoft's perspective, because you want to play Ori and Cuphead, those are on Switch too. Like, there's so many games on Switch. So, like, having that depth of catalog is one of its real strengths as a device. It is immediately usurped by Switch 2. It is, because
Yeah.
it's backwards compatible. So you do say the Switch is the best console of all time, and I think that was true up until June 4th. And June 5th, Switch 2, because it also has Mario Kart World, immediately takes its place. It has one extra thing.
I haven't got my hands on it yet, but yeah, and it does seem like just based on like the little info we have about what third-party games are coming or are already on Switch 2 already, it kind of seems like that initiative is really gonna go into overdrive on the Switch 2, because now like you have a company like CD Projekt Red was like, oh, we're gonna put Cyberpunk on this thing, like a complete edition of Cyberpunk. Oh, we're gonna put Final Fantasy VII Remake on this thing, because of course we are. Like I feel like it's really going to hammer home like a lot of these games that, you know, could barely run on your PS4 when they came out. Because a lot of people like to forget that Cyberpunk was a PS4 game, end of life cycle PS4 game, but a PS4 game nonetheless. That could barely run. You know, if you try to play them 5 years ago, why don't you come over to this console and try them out? And then I think an interesting thing that Nintendo did with the Switch 1 is they were like, yeah, we know only 12 million of you bought a Wii U, so we're going to port every major game we ever released on the Wii U to the Switch, outside of Wind Waker HD.
Other than that one you won't stop shouting at us about.
Yeah, other than that one that everybody wants and we would make unlimited money from, but yes. I mean, because, and then not only that, they weren't ports, they were better. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, like built on Mario Kart 8 in such a way I don't think anybody ever fathomed that a Mario Kart game would sell 60 million units or whatever insane number it ended up selling.
It is the fourth or fifth best-selling game ever made.
Yeah, ever made. It was a Wii U game. It sold more. It sold like 5 times the amount of the console it was originally made for.
Yes, it did.
That is insane. Like, you have that. You have like, God, I mean Smash Brothers Ultimate, because a lot of people thought it was going to be a Smash 4 like port. And then
that was the funny thing about the launch year, where everyone was like, oh, they're porting Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and then they're like, actually no, it's Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And everyone was like, oh, they're porting Splatoon, and it's like, actually no, it's Splatoon 2.
Splatoon 2.
And everyone was like, oh, they're porting Smash. It's like, actually no, it's Smash Ultimate.
Yep. Yeah, it's just they like built on their stuff, like the stuff they already had, which again helped them in that, hey, we need to release a game like every 6 weeks for 8 years ago. And that just helped them in the long term. It's like, it almost makes the Wii U look like it was done on purpose. I know that's not the case. But God, like I don't know if there was a misstep with the Switch. Like the entire time of the console, they were hard to get for a little while, but I feel like that's just consumerism now. Yeah, like that's just console launches now. Like I don't. Have you seen a Switch 2 in the wild where you are yet? Like in a store?
I have seen them on a shelf. I'm not sure were they purchasable. They have like boxes on shelves, but I'm not sure was it like, oh, actually we have sold out of those. Sorry.
Oh, interesting.
I have one, so I haven't actually walked up to try and buy it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you know what? That's fair. Like we were at a store last weekend, and they had like all the accessories, they had the games, they had like, oh, you want the Piranha Plant controller? Here you go. They didn't have any consoles. I was like, oh, damn. But
which is the reason you had that 103 attach rate, which
yeah, exactly. It was like, but yeah, I was like, well, I guess we'll go ahead and get Breath of the Wild. Just
walk home with your copy of Mario Kart World and no console.
Yeah. But we discussed earlier that I'm never buying a physical game again. So
I'm also over that. But like you say that, you know, it almost makes the Wii U look like it was done on purpose. And one of my, I think, hotter takes is that there is like a direct line from Wii U to Switch's success. Like the Switch,
oh yeah,
the Switch is the vindication of the ideas of the Wii U, as opposed to the Wii U being this like, oh, we've got to pivot. Like the Switch just took some of the inconveniences away from Wii U, like refined it, and then it was the best-selling console in years and years. Because like the Wii U was already trying to get to that idea of home and handheld together. It was a lot more clunky. You couldn't move more than 5 feet away from your console. But like, I've played a lot of Wii U games on the gamepad lying in bed. Like, the same way I play a lot of Switch games in handheld, just lying in bed or sitting on the couch.
That's how I played Super Mario 3D World. Was on my Wii U gamepad.
That core idea, the little bit of magic that makes the Switch great, was what they were going for with Wii U, but didn't have the technology to do yet. Yep. And then you look at like two of the most successful games are Mario Kart 8, which was boosted and improved, and they doubled the number of tracks over the course of the Wii or the Switch life cycle. But it is ultimately still the Wii U game, and also The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, which is a Wii U game. So you look at the core of the success of Switch comes from the DNA of the Wii U. So I hate when people like completely write off the Wii U as this chapter in Nintendo's history that should be written off and not thought about, instead of like seeing it for what it is, which is like the iterative step to get to the success of Switch.
Yeah, I mean, it really was like the Switch 0.3. If the Switch 1 was truly 1.0, the Wii U was like a third of the way there, and they're just also didn't help that Nintendo had a very good actual just handheld console with the 3DS when the Wii U came out. That also, I think, detracts from it, and I think them combining like their efforts in the handheld space and the home console space into just the Switch space helped astronomically. Like I don't know, like it's perfect.
Yeah, we talked about that production schedule of like every 6 weeks. Like, I assume if you look back at the Wii U and 3DS era, there was probably something similar. Yeah, where Nintendo did probably have a game every 6 weeks to 2 months. It might have gotten a little sparse there because the Wii U was a little dire at points. But like the problem, as you said, that was like there's a game every 6 weeks, but it's 6 weeks Wii U, 6 weeks 3DS. So like the Wii U games are every like 3 months instead of every 6 weeks. So like compiling that, like consolidating it into one system where like all the handheld developers or all the console developers are all developing for this one system that we're churning out games for. Because like if you look at the Wii U's release schedule, again, we go back to reasons the Wii U did actually flop. It's not because people didn't understand what it was. I hate that talking point. It's so stupid.
Yeah, people thought it was a Wii. No, they didn't.
And if they did, they understood it wasn't within like 2 articles they read. You know, people aren't fucking stupid. And if journalists are like, "Oh, we were confused," it's your job not to be. Stop it.
Yeah. Dude, that stuff pisses me off. Where like, well, you have to assume the consumer is the dumbest person on the planet, and it's just like, you don't. Most consumers know. I mean, you may occasionally get the 90-year-old grandma going in there, buying it for their grandson and being like, well, will this be on the Wii? But I mean, other than that, most people in general will know the difference pretty immediately.
Or they'll talk to the person in the shop who knows the difference. Like that's what'll happen. It's like, I don't know anything, please help me, and the person will help them. But like one of the reasons it really flopped was you look at the Wii U release cadence, where you look at launch, it had Nintendo Land and New Super Mario Bros. U, which I think both are pretty good games. And then basically, there's no first-party game from that November 2012 launch until Game & Wario comes out, and I think it's like July. It's like you got Lego City Undercover came out in like February, but that's third party. And then you had like Game & Wario, which was July or August. And then you got a couple like a year into it, Christmas 2013. You got stuff like 3D World. You got stuff like Wind Waker HD. That was like, all right, there's finally stuff on this thing. But that's a year into the launch, which is the thing they really fixed like, with Switch. Like I think they understood the actual problems with Wii U much better than the media even do now. Like the talking points that go around even do now.
Yeah. I completely agree. Also, Garrett, I do not appreciate your zombie U erasure.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But no, it's wild to think about that. Like, God, I guess I never realized how far it was in between like a first party release, like for the Wii U. Could you imagine if the Switch 2 came out, the launch lineup came out, and they're like, all right, guys, it's going to be a lot of third-party stuff. Donkey Kong Bonanza will come out next February. Like, could you imagine? There would be riots in the street, Garrett.
It would not go down particularly well, I don't think.
No. Be like, all right, guys, no first-party games. See you in February for Donkey Kong Bonanza. Could you imagine? And like, it's so crazy to think we live in a timeline where we just got a sequel to one of the best-selling games of all time, for all intents and purposes, a pretty good one. Metroid Prime 4, a game that people have wanted forever, announced to come out this year. 3D Donkey Kong game, again, a game I feel like people have clamored for forever, and a new Pokemon game this year, and people were like, Switch 2 kind of seems a little light on the game side. What? What? That's such a dumb. I can see arguments for not immediately getting a Switch 2. I truly can. That's not one of them. That is not one of the arguments you can make.
That's if you were to come to me and say, Garrett, the Switch 2 is too expensive, I would be like, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It is undeniably too expensive. That's a perfectly fair opinion to have about the Switch 2. But like, as I said, this game it'll have games. It'll have lots of them. They'll be a Nintendo Direct. People always pretend like there'll never be another Nintendo Direct, and there will be. It'll be fine.
Yeah, 1,000%. Like on top of that too, like the expensive part. Obviously, I can that
perfectly fair. It is super expensive.
$450.
It's super expensive. It's so expensive.
Yeah. And honestly, like it sucks. But honestly, like you have to go like, well, it's more cost effective for me to get the $500 version because the $500 version comes with Mario Kart World, which is an $80 game. So really, I'm saving money if I buy the $500 version that comes with Mario Kart World. And like here, by the time you get taxed on that, that's $550. And then if you get any other accessory or anything else, I mean, you're talking about over $600. It's hard. That's tough. $600 for a console is a lot. I didn't pay that much for anything. That's a lot of money. But it, on the flip side of that, it is funny. Like people were saying, oh, there's no games on it. You can play all your Switch 1 games on this, but better. Like I know a lot of people think that the Switch 2 for the most part is what the Switch Pro was supposed to be. And I guess part of that probably is true, but at the same time, the Switch 2 didn't need to be anything else. They're like, oh, wacky Nintendo doesn't have a wacky gimmick for this thing. I think the mouse controllers is weird, and I feel like there's room for developers to get weird there. But B, why would you need to like innovate on a wacky idea when you just had this console sell 150 million units in 8 years? And that's all since pretty much the Switch 1 came out. All people have been saying are like, man, I hope the next thing Nintendo makes is just this again, but better.
Also, the games are worse on the wacky consoles. That's also the thing. Like if you made a Nintendo console that had some wacky thing, or you had to strap a headlamp to your head and you reveal things with the headlamp or whatever the new Nintendo gimmick could be, the games made around that would be annoying.
Yeah,
it would be Skyward Sword all over again. Everyone like, I would much rather Nintendo put all their innovative prowess into the games as opposed to into the games hardware
themselves. Yes, do stuff like Super Mario Wonder. I don't care if I can't wag my controller and it be a finger picking a nose. Like that doesn't excite me.
Or like do it the way they did on Switch, where they're like, you will have your normal Zelda games, your normal Mario games, your normal Mario Kart games, Animal Crossing, all that fun stuff, and also we'll release Nintendo Labo and Ring Fit Adventure and Game Builder Garage. Like we'll do some weird freak shit, but we'll do it like on the software side with a peripheral, and the console will be the console.
Yeah, and like I feel like you're going to get that weird peripheral stuff with like the camera. Garrett, do you have one of the cameras?
No, I don't.
Oh, I was wondering if you were going to get one. I'll probably pick one up when I get mine. That seems wacky enough where I feel like I need to have it. But I'm going to get the shitty Piranha Plant one that only does 480.
You can see the rough outline of Tanner's head through the Piranha Plant camera.
It's going to sound like I'm talking through tinfoil. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. But it just looks so much better than why didn't Nintendo just make that?
Because they made a normal one?
Yeah, but put it in a Piranha Plant.
That would be nice.
Why couldn't they do that? Or make it a Keyblade?
That would also be nice.
That would be so funny though. If they were like, "Here's our Keyblade camera." No, you can't play Kingdom Hearts on this. Why do you ask?
We've re-released the cloud versions.
The cloud versions now run at a native 30 FPS. Oh man. Well, Garrett, any final parting words for our dearly beloved Nintendo Switch 1?
That's gonna be weird. We're gonna have to call it Switch 1. That's gonna be a thing. You know, in
Yeah.
4 years when everyone says Switch 1, it's like back in my day, we just called it a Switch.
Yeah. Hey, that Xbox One, PlayStation 1, Switch 1. Think about it.
Damn, it all comes together.
Yeah.
It's a little miracle device. I think it's created a whole new subgenre of device because obviously the Steam Deck followed in its wake.
Yep.
And then became a weird culture war thing with Switch 2, which like shut the fuck up. What are you talking about?
Yep.
Both will be fine. There are different consoles, different devices for different audiences. And then all the Steam Deck pros are like, "Oh, I emulated my Nintendo game on my Steam Deck. Good for you, buddy. Well done."
Now Miyamoto can't eat. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, he's starving. He's sitting in Nintendo Land in Japan and Universal Studios, desperately looking at the mushroom burgers, being like, "I can't afford it because you pirated the copy of Nintendo Land on Wii U." It's a little miracle device.
Kong ride, crying.
Sadly, it is a little miracle device. It is like Nintendo came into the generation on the back foot, which is also always the best place for these developers and publishers to be because they're eager to please and eager to impress and eager to win back business, as opposed to you see them entering Switch 2 in a different mentality. They're entering on the front foot where they're like, "You will pay for Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour and you will be happy," which I did, so I am happy.
I wish they would release sales figures for that because I think every single person I've seen that's like, "Oh, this should be a packing game" that has a Switch 2 owns that fucking game.
Like, well, yes, of course I bought it, but they should have given it to me, Tanner.
No, I agree. It should have been a packing game, but also everybody complaining about it buying it is hilarious.
It is very funny. So like Nintendo going into that generation eager to please and knowing that they had something. I think they knew they had something, especially with Breath of the Wild. Like having that as a launch game, having what is going to top and continues to top best game of all time lists as your console launch game is a crazy flex to have. And that I think that like that moment in time, that combination of that system and that game is a kind of magic that probably only comes along every 20-30 years. And we should probably appreciate it while it does. And then the system had a beautiful lifespan full of wonderful games. And I hope the Switch 2 continues that legacy of fun, inventive, creative Nintendo, even if they are as horribly capitalist as they have probably ever been.
Yeah. No, 1,000%. That being said, Donkey Kong Bonanza is looking pretty good. I hope somebody in a Donkey Kong suit accepts the Game Award for Game of the Year at the Keeleys in December.
Because that does look very good.
It looks so good. It looks so good. And then like the random sculpting stuff, that was another part I had it muted during. I don't even, what's that for?
It's just this little side mode where you can like sculpt and paint a little head.
Yeah, why? Is that the Mario Paint that people wanted on the Switch too?
Because that is like the weird thing. It's like, I guess we have this mouse mode. We got to do something with it.
Yeah.
And instead, and credit to them, instead of annoyingly making the game annoying by forcing mouse mode shit into it, they're like, "We're gonna put this little thing over here you can play with mouse mode."
Yeah, I mean that's so cool. It's like, oh look, you can give Donkey Kong a little hat, and then you have costumes, and then Donkey Kong can go Super Saiyan or turn into an ostrich. I'm like,
pretty cool.
They're cooking. It's going to be this year's Astrobot. I'm calling it now.
Yeah, and like it seems like it'll be the most satisfying game of all time, just breaking shit.
Yeah, I mean, who? Maybe this is my manliness coming through. So allow me to be a man for a second. But who hasn't ever just wanted to be a little gorilla going around breaking shit?
It is the urge.
It is the urge.
When you play Ocarina of Time, when you see those pots, you're like, "I'm fucking breaking those pots."
Exactly. My favorite thing to do when my nephew comes over is I call him a stinky doo-doo monkey boy. And then we just start beating our chest and fucking howling. Like monkey. I mean, it's the manly urge to be primordial.
Just go boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, we're just going, like, I mean, we're just fucking howling. And my wife gets so mad. because she's like, "You're doing this. You started this with him."
You don't understand. It's our pack mentality. We get together
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, we're doing this because we're men, and we don't
We're
need any
wolves.
yeah, we don't need any girls to tell us what to do. But yeah. Well, Garrett, it's been a lovely chat as always. Where can the good listeners of this here podcast find you?
You can find me on X, the Everything app, Twitter, at Garrett Kidney, or ATTKDNEY. I do a TNA history podcast. You've got to be kidding me. We talk about TNA. You can find that on your favorite podcast services with my podcast co-host Liam, whose Twitter is the Gleet Muda. Also, I'm doing a Switch retrospective series on YouTube, so you can go watch that. I have videos on Mario, Pokemon, Zelda, and Mario spin-offs. I'll be doing a video on the rest of Nintendo's franchises, all fucking 7 million of them, and then third-party indies, and wrapping up that little series there. So if you would like to hear more extensive game-by-game thoughts on Switch U, I have at least an hour of videos already up on YouTube for you, and it'll probably be close to 2 hours by the time I'm done.
Yeah, we'll have the playlist for that linked in the description down below for y'all to go check out. I ain't got nothing. I mean, you can follow me on Bluesky, tanner1495.bsky.social. Go to our YouTube channel. Go check that out. You're already listening to the podcast. You did the right thing. Now go to our YouTube. We're doing demo expressos. Where I demo a game. The most recent one is a game called Wordplay that does satisfy a Balatro itch in a Scrabble way. So go check that out. We also have our Twitch VODs, every one of them we've ever done. And just give the podcast a little thumbs up, a little 5-star rating if you enjoyed it at all. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Garrett, it's been a blast. Send the people off. Send the Switch one off with one final word.
Let's go.